welcome to SermonLink, and I'm Pastor Larry Brown. Today we're going to be diving into the book of Isaiah, the Hebrew Scriptures' great prophet, and hearing from what this prophet has to say to us. So I'm glad that you're connecting and joining with me as we share in our word today. Let's just get right to it, and then we will think about it together. I'm in chapter 11, and we're going to be reading from the first 10 verses in this chapter. So let's hear what the word has to say to us today. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear, but with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And on that day the root of Jesse shall stand as a signal to the peoples. The nations shall inquire of him, and his dwelling place shall be glorious. Well, that's quite a reading and quite a prophecy that Isaiah gives us. And really from the beginning of the time the Christian church was established, Christians have looked back upon these words of Isaiah and heard them to be a foretelling of the coming of Christ. If we just turn back another chapter or so in Isaiah, we find these words that kind of set up, if you will, the echo of what we've heard here in chapter 11. Let me go to chapter 9 briefly in Isaiah, verses 6 and 7. These words are going to be familiar to many of us. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. So, as I'm saying, Christians have looked back through the generations of time and heard here in these beautiful visions that Isaiah articulates the hope and promise of the coming of Christ. And so they become then, in the biblical flow, part of the messianic tradition, the messianic hope, the hope for the one that God will send to redeem God's people, in fact, to redeem all of creation. In this season of Advent, as we come close to the celebration of Christmas, we are very aware of the power of the coming of Christ. But for us as Christians, it's not just the celebration of that first coming. We continue to prepare and to be ready for the coming of Christ again. And as we read from Isaiah today, it's helpful for us to recognize that he's not just talking about being ready for the coming. It's to make ready for the world that will emerge when that one comes. Did you note the dramatic change in what we assume is true about this world after the coming of the one that God sends? Those who are predators become peaceful. Those who are enemies become friends. This is a world where lion and lamb lie down together, where a child leads instead of some powerful military presence. It's a world where that same child can move about freely and without fear. be vulnerable and not worry about harm that could come. And that's the reference to putting your hand over the den of a snake, a poisonous snake. Nothing to fear in this world. It'll be a world of peace. And as I'm thinking about that with you today, I have to be honest, don't we? Have to be honest with each other to say, the world's not that way. Christ has come. The Messiah has come. And yet so much of the world is still untouched by that Prince of Peace. What are we to make of that? For me, it says that we are still in the in-between time. We are in this period when God is continuing to shape us, transform our world, and in this faith move us further and further along to what it is God fully desires for us and for this creation. So Christmas is a time to remember, to celebrate, to look back. It's a time to receive the one that God still sends into our hearts and lives, Christ the Lord, the Messiah. And it is to listen for and respond to the ways in which God is inviting us to be partners in continuing to bring this change until all, as the scripture says, as wide as the waters are in the oceans of the earth, where all are touched by this presence of God that brings an everlasting peace. That's what we want for Christmas, isn't it, really? Don't want to trivialize it by saying it that way. I'm trying to actually deepen it and make it more authentic. That's what we want, a world where love and peace and grace and joy are not things that just kind of swing in during a season and then fleetingly leave, but remain with us, and we are part of that expression of God's goodness. So hold on to that hope and promise. May it become true for us this Christmas. Glad you're with me today. Glad to be together and connecting. We appreciate any share or like you give us. It just spreads that word out farther and farther, and your partnership with us in that is so appreciated. For now, I'm going to sign off and thank you again for being with me. We'll be here next week on SermonLink, and we'll look for you and hope that you'll be with us. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.